I did it.
You did it.
Okay. And you go by Brown,
Yes.
Larissa Brown.
Yes.
And I'll start with I took some notes on background in education and I read the BFA Fine Arts at CSU Fullerton, Animation Guild, Animation Academy. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the college university experience? What do you think was helpful? What wasn't?
Sure. Yeah. So I always knew I wanted to be an artist. I didn't know in what aspect. So I in high school I didn't know which direction to go in terms of art, but I ended up going to a community college, my local community college, Golden West, and I was there for 2 years, getting my associate's in arts degree, so that I could transfer to an art college. And I found at the time that a lot of the art colleges in my area, Art Center, College of Design, Cal Arts, they were ready to accept me as a student, but they weren't going to transfer me. I was going to have to basically take my artwork that I had created in those 2 years of the community college and start over again as a freshman. And so for me personally, that wasn't going to work for me. So I ended up transferring to Cal State Fullerton, where I was actually able to transfer with my 2 years. And I graduated from Cal State from University Fullerton with a bachelor's in fine arts degree, and I studied drawing and painting. So it wasn't until the end of my university years that I realized that I wanted to teach, number one, and I also wanted to work in animation. So in my last year, I started to pivot. I did graduate with a BFA, but leaving school, I had kind of a broader sense of the things that I wanted to do, not just draw and paint as a fine artist, but kind of at a little bit more of an open direction in terms of where I wanted to go, like working as a job. And that's when I really, after university, I went and did more studying to become an animation artist. So that's kind of where I went into beginning.
What painting mediums did you do? All of them?
Yes, I mean, when you're a drawing and painting major, you do everything, and it's great because you have to know what you like and
Hmm.
you have to learn what you don't like. And I remember talking to a lot of my other student friends that were graphic designers. And the funny thing about the graphic designers is they didn't like to get their hands messy. So, but we all had to do, everything. So, I think it's really important in that exploratory process that artists discover what it is that they're really passionate about, what they love. Some people love to get their hands dirty. Some people love to like really use buttery paint. Some people like to build things. So it's really important in the beginning. This is why they give you all of these classes so that you can explore what it is you really enjoy. And that will help guide you to the direction that you really should be spending your effort and energy in.
That makes sense.
Hmm.
And you said in one of your previous interviews that you first got interested with an uncle's charcoal drawing.
Yes.
Is that how
Yes.
you very first started getting interested in art, or was it even before that?
I was I was copying Snoopy and Charlie Brown from the Sunday comics, like the mini pages in the LA Times when I was
Wow.
a kindergartner. And so I knew that I always liked to draw. Thankfully, my parents were really supportive of that. But it wasn't until I saw other art that I realized that that was something that I really wanted to do. It was my uncle, my mother's brother, is an artist, and he would send over portraits of me and my sister as a gift to my mother. And so I had this charcoal portrait of myself and my sister on the wall, and I would stare at that every day, and I would just like look at it and just wonder how the heck did he do that? Like maybe I want to do that someday. And I think it was just that daily interaction with that visual that really drove me to kind of figure out how to do that. And so that I think being around art is just as important as developing your own voice, because the more you see and the more you're exposed to, the more interest you will find in the greater, the likelier it is that you'll find the direction that you want to pursue.
Absolutely. So, and I've been of the mind that there is natural God-given talent and then there's learned talent and maybe somewhere in between as well.
Mhm.
I'm definitely a learned talent. I don't have a natural talent. Would you describe yourself one way or the other, do you think? Was it pretty easy to pick up?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it is a gift that I'm grateful for, but also it is a skill that has been developed. I mean, I tell the story that when I was in, what was it? I was in middle school and it was my first drawing class. And I remember maybe the first day of class looking around at everyone else's drawings and thinking, what is wrong with these people? Why can't they draw what the instructor is drawing on the board? And that was when I realized that, oh, wait, no, this is something that I'm really good at. And at the time, before that, I mean, I felt like I was horrible at everything. I was bad at PE. I hated physical activity. I hated history, science, math, English. I just was a horrid student. So finding the thing that I was good at, in middle school really helped me to blossom and figure out what I wanted to do.
I wonder if that goes hand in hand, your passion for it and your gift making you want to do it more because I like I've told you, I'm more of the hobby artist. I love doing it, but do I want to draw all the time? No. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm barely starting to like drawing because I have to do it to get better. But obviously, it's hobby. It's not something I want to do day in and day out. So I'm always amazed by somebody who wants to do it all the time. So
Mm.
do you think those things go hand in hand, the gift and the wanting to do it all the time?
Um, well, I think that people will think that they can't do something because they don't have a gift or a talent. And I think that there's two different things. I mean, Michael Phelps was born with a swimmer's body, and I mean, it's just something that he was born with. And so we all have these things that are unique to us and inherent, but it doesn't mean that we will be good at it. We have to train. The reason Michael Phelps has so many gold medals is because he trained for those medals. And the same thing, it's like you can have a gift, but if you don't develop that gift and you don't put your effort and spend time on improving your craft and getting better, it's a waste. It's a waste. And someone who doesn't necessarily have that gift but has that drive, they can surpass someone with talent or a gift any day. It really depends on the daily choices that you make as a person. Do you decide to scroll on Instagram for 3 hours, or do you decide to put your phone down and draw for 3 hours and create something new?
I read that in one of your interviews that you had to start using that app, which maybe I should start using that app too, because yeah, what a time waster. Um, but it makes me think also of the bathtub drawing that I saw that you did and how you got there. So maybe, and you said that you struggle later if you don't do the thumbnail early on, get the perspective correct. And so you
Mhm.
obviously didn't know how to do that when you were a kid. You had to learn that in art school, how to do that perspective
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, as an educator, I tell my students a lot. I will notice that my students who struggle the most are the ones who have the most vivid imagination. And the reason why they struggle is because their output doesn't match their imaginative mind. So the way that they cure that frustration is by learning how to develop those skills so that they can take what's in here and put it out into the world. And that's why education is so important. I think personally, as someone who loves to learn and someone who loves to teach, I think that it's important to spend that time learning the fundamentals, getting the basics down so that you can learn how to break the rules. I think Picasso didn't start doing his abstract paintings until he had mastered everything. And when you are able to see what the rules are and then make those intentional choices to break them, it gives you greater freedom where you're not creating things based on a limited knowledge or a limited base of information. So you really you have more power to visually communicate the ideas that you want. And even though I think art is the strongest, art has the best, concepts. I think the best concepts executed, in a brilliant way are the ones that go really far.
Yeah, that's uh that's interesting. I once talked with a successful student of UC Berkeley who I forget where he worked, somewhere in the gaming industry. And he was like, I just got really lucky. And I was like,
Mm,
no, I don't believe that you did get really lucky. I mean, someone might say that about you. You got really lucky. You were in the right place at the right time and worked hard to get where you got. And maybe there was some luck involved, but none of that would have mattered had you not spent countless hours cultivating, learning your
mhm.
skills and practicing. I mean, there's no lucky moment without all that work that you did, that foundational work.
Yeah, I totally believe that. I think that saying that I mean, a person can say that they're lucky, but I think that you're right. You do have to be in the right place at the right time, but are you ready? And whether
Exactly.
you're ready or not depends on how much work you've done and how
Yep.
much you put in to yourself to say that, yes, I'm ready for this opportunity. I had the opportunity to become a Disney artist years before I actually did. And in in that sense, I and how that happened was, I'll tell you because a lot of times people, especially hopeful artists, hopeful professional artists, they want to know, how do you become a Disney artist? And I tell them there wasn't a website to apply to, there wasn't an application process. They found me, and basically how they found me was one of my students who I was working with. Her parent worked with Disney, not even in the aspect of the area that I am working in now, but she was connected to Disney and she saw my work. And as a Disney employee, she thought, you should have your work in the galleries. Have you ever been to the galleries? And I said, are you kidding me? Like those, I love those galleries. And that's, I think, how we started talking because you were wearing the Disney pin and I asked you, did you see any of the galleries? So she had asked me if I was willing to, participate that. And at the time, man, that was like 10 years ago, I had major imposter syndrome. I was ready, but I wasn't. I wanted to, but I couldn't. There were a lot of things in me. There was a lot of self-doubt, because I had this imagination. I had this thought, this concept that Disney is this, perfect, big, huge thing. And measuring my art, what I was creating at the time, I felt like it didn't match up. So what someone else saw in me, I didn't see that in myself. And it took me a few years to actually be ready for that. So when the opportunity came knocking again, I said, oh yes, I'm ready. And in fact, what happened was, um, I didn't even have to try at that point. I just reconnected with that person and they said, hey, are you still interested? And I said, yeah.
Wow.
And that was it. I mean, the body of work that I had created between that point and the past was proof enough that I was ready. So that's the thing. Being those 4 years, I worked hard and I developed things. And it wasn't for this, to be a Disney artist. It was just to be better. It was just to
You mean the 4 years of college?
Actually, it was not even 4 years of college. It was just, I mean, I've been a Disney artist this is going on my fourth year. So, it was probably like between 2018 and
Okay.
2022 that I was first approached by Disney in 2018, and then in 2021 or 22, that's when I actually became the artist, the Disney artist.
Wow.
Hmm.
But it took all that work since childhood to get you
Yes.
to that
Yes.
place. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's constant. It's constant development of skill for me anyway. And it's just always creating. I have this little note on my desk. It says ABC, and it's an acronym for always be creating.
Cute. I love that.
Hmm.
So, since we're talking about the Disney part, which is
Mhm.
how I initially got extremely excited about what you do, what is that like now? What was it like then? What do you hope to continue to do with it?
Yeah, well, see, as a Disney fine artist, what my role is to create art, gallery art based on the world of Disney, the Disney intellectual property. So I have no ties to like the movies. I don't work in the movies or anything like that, or any of the features. I basically take the properties that people love, and I just create more things for them to love. And so my first year of doing it, as a black artist, I wanted to focus on the characters of color. And so that's the direction that I have chosen to go in. And as I'm also a watercolor artist, which is where we met in the watercolor painting aisle of Blick. And what I'm hoping to do in the future with Disney is watercolor plain air paintings with the Festival of the Arts in Walt Disney World. So that's something I'm hoping to go in that direction with, and just hopefully to continue to collaborate with Disney. But saying that, like, that is a fine art thing, but it really isn't. It's more of an illustrative direction. So if anybody is interested in that direction, I would say choose the path of illustration, which kind of leads me to the other kind of thought about which direction an artist could go into, especially now. I worked in the animation industry, and I think about 80% right now, 80% of the people who were working in animation are not working in animation because of technology, AI, and all of the things that are happening. The workforce is extremely suffering. It's extremely
Wow.
competitive. And I was teaching in the animation department of a few schools, Cal State Long Beach, Laguna College of Art and Design. And I'm telling my students that you need to pivot, and you need to pivot hard.
Mm.
And utilizing technology now to develop your own voice, your own skills, your own properties, your own stories, your own ideas. It's a lot easier to do that now, and I think that's important to do. I and I don't know, like I just completed a graphic novel, and so Blake Laser is my graphic novel, and it took me 4 years to do that. So um, that's that's something that is my own, and I mean, I co-created it with an author, but that is my own project. And so having the ability and the skill to develop your own project and put it out in the world, that relies on you and only you. And so that's not something where you have to find a job and have somebody hire you. That's just something that you just do on your own. And I would stress to any creative person to build their skills, learn as much as they can, and work on their own projects, work on their own things. And whether or not they come to fruition, um, is one thing. But as long as you have a passion and a desire, you're developing something, you're developing your voice, you're developing your style, and that when you put that out in the world, that's going to show people that your strength as an artist, your vision, your creativity, your imagination. And when you can pour that into something that you're passionate about and that you really love, that's the strength that people want on their team, or they want to hire, or they want to give you a commission, because then you show that you're capable.
Is that book you're mentioning, is that based on your life or is it fiction?
It's a fiction, Blake Laser. It's so Blake is a young girl. She's the elevator pitch is it's a 24th century science fiction fantasy about a young girl who doesn't know she's a genius, but she is, and uh she and her annoying older brother and family have to save the world from impending doom, because if they don't do something within 24 hours, Earth is going to turn into a gigantic ice ball because aliens are sucking the energy from the sun, and it's up to her and her family to do something.
That's so cute. I saw a little bit about that on one of the interviews or one of the pages on your website.
Yeah.
So I was curious about that. And then OC Art Studios, you developed that
Hmm.
about how long ago?
Um, gosh, it's been like 20 years now.
Hmm.
So yeah, I okay, so I always knew that I wanted to be an educator, and I kind of stumbled into that as well. My son at the time was 5, and he loved to draw, and I thought it would be really fun to get him into an art class. And at the time, I asked my partner if we could sign our kid up for an art class, and he said you should teach him, and then you should teach his friends too. So I ended up starting a class with my son, who was 5, and his friends in the garage. And then those parents told other parents. And then eventually I was teaching kids who I didn't even know who they were. And then I started teaching at my son's elementary school. And then the teachers there were telling other teachers and at other schools. And it basically branched out to me hiring additional educators to teach at different schools in different districts. And I had at one point like maybe 15 educators and was teaching at 4 different elementary school districts.
Wow.
So becoming an educator was something that I'd always wanted to do, but I didn't do that in the typical path. I didn't, you're supposed to get your master's degree and, do your thesis and stuff. And I just kind of stumbled into it and
It sounds
everything
like
that
none
I
of your stuff
learned.
is typical from so far from what I've heard.
No, not no, I did not. Yeah, now that you mention it, I did not take the proper path to anything.
But it just goes to show you when you have a passion and a talent and you work hard, you'll get where you want to go. Because I say that to students all the time. So I'm glad to know that you're confirming this.
Hmm. Yeah.
What was your favorite job? You said you worked for Rugrats, Rocket Power, and the Disney, Nickelodeon, other Nickelodeon,
Hmm.
Clyde the Hippo. I want to hear a little bit about that. What
Hmm.
was the inspiration for that? And what was your favorite of all those?
I was thinking about this today because as a teacher, I love to teach and I love to make art, and I'm at a personal crossroads with like not being prolific enough because I'm an educator. So I love to paint, but I haven't painted my personal work in a while, and
Mm.
it's been getting at me. But I really love to teach, and that's my passion. So I feel like the avenue of creating is so that I have something to share with people. And it's in the process of making work for Disney and, painting my own paintings that I am able to glean insight to the creative process that I can then share with others. So, book projects are fantastic. They are almost soul crushing. Like the graphic novel was 240 pages, and that was a treat in the beginning until it wasn't, because any long project, you have to have the perseverance to kind of,
Hmm.
complete it. Um, I just, I don't have a favorite. I love everything.
Yeah. Okay. What was the inspiration for Clyde the Hippo?
So, my partner and I, we had picture book that we wrote and created together called the Fuzz Buds. And our daughter loved it so much that she wanted she wanted to make something out of it. Our and I think that at the time she was asking like I want a hippo. And it was really very weird. She had said, like, I want a hippo. And my partner said, we have a hippo, but he's hiding in the backyard. And so that dumb scenario created the like impetus for the Clyde the hippo. And
Okay.
so we developed as the illustrator and he was the writer, we created those picture books together. And so we have a series with Penguin Workshop, Clyde the Hippo picture books.
Oh
And
wow.
those are for preschool and kindergarten age kids. Yeah.
Very cute. Yeah, I'm curious to go look at these books in the coming weeks. And so currently you still, how many jobs do you have? You do the Disney, you have your art school. Oh,
I do. Yeah, it makes people's heads spin. So I teach at Chapman University, Orange Coast College, Saddleback Community College. I am a Disney fine artist. I'm also developing my own personal projects, and I'm also developing a new program with New Masters Academy. Um, yeah, I I think that's
what's
everything.
the syllabus you were working on when I met you?
Yes, the syllabus that I had in my hand was my watercolor class that I'm teaching, and I brought in my syllabus to make sure that I had the right things on the list.
So fun. Um, see, some of these we've answered. What do you enjoy the most about your career?
Um, I am a freelance artist. Like I'm working from home. I teach, so as an adjunct faculty member, I don't teach full time. So I have classes here and there. I'm what they call a freeway flyer.
Yep, I know all
Because,
about that.
right? Because I'm
Yep.
a part-time teacher and I kind of pull together a full-time, like work week with teaching at
Hmm.
different places. And so, me personally, I have ADHD tendencies. And so I think that that feeds me in my ways that needing to have diversity and novelty and, new sites, new people, new things to do that are different. That works really well for me personally.
Hmm.
So that's something that I enjoy, like deconstructing art so that I can reconstruct it in the classroom and show my students how to make something. I think that's my favorite thing to do is making it and then figuring out, like, going backwards. How did I make this? How can I tell someone else to make it so that they can make their own thing?
That really is a teacher's heart. Do you think so? I don't know if I mentioned to you recently a video that I found on YouTube of a student who went to Cal Arts and then she has a whole series on why you don't need to do that, and here's how. What do you think might be some pitfalls? Is she wrong?
What was this? She was saying you don't need to go to college.
You don't have to pay to go to an art school to be in the art world and to be successful. You don't have to go to college and have a degree.
Okay, she's right and she's wrong.
Okay.
Why she's right is because if you're the type of person who can create for yourself a project pipeline or some kind of learning pathway so that you will learn the things that you need to learn so that you can do the things that you want to do, then no, you don't need it. And also, by the way, the portfolio is of your work that you've learned how to, all the skills that you've learned how to do and things that you know how to make at the end of college when you graduated, you get a degree and then you have a body of work, and that body of work is your portfolio, and the portfolio is what gets you work. Nobody is looking for that paper. They're looking for the body of work that you're doing. So it's interesting because I've worked as a mentor for students who are trying to get into private art schools, and the parents and the kids always have a different idea. The parents say, I want my kid to graduate. I want them to get that certificate. And the kid is just like, I just want to learn. I just want to, I want to learn. I want to go to this school because this school looks really cool and I want to learn everything that they have and I want to be like those people that graduated. It really is about what you gain from that experience. So in that sense, college is important because and where you go is going to be important too, because based on your your interests. I mean, are you wanting to be a fine artist, a figurative artist, a comic artist, a graphic designer? Then you would go towards those places that are offering you education and direction in those particular areas. And college is where it's at. if you are able to put enough effort and work on your own and develop on your own so that you can get to that kind of professional level on your own, it can be done. I mean, I have a friend who is a self-taught artist, and he's extremely successful. I'm not here to say that you have to go to college. I'm here to say you have to learn and put in the time and create, whether that's on your own or in an institution, in a private university, a public university. It's got to be done either way. If you're not making art, you're not going to be a professional artist.
Right. So you mentioned, thank you for mentioning the portfolio. I was curious as I was reading about that in a lot of your articles, they all talk about the portfolio. It sounds like that's just a common thing you have to do forever. You always have to be updating your
Yes.
portfolio.
Yes, because how do people know what you do?
Yeah.
No one's going to know what you do or what you're capable of unless you're proving who you are and what you're doing. And that's why having a website is important.
And it seems like you're very good at teaching the portfolio. You have a class on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have a class on how to build your portfolio for entrance into our art college. And then I've worked with students on how to put a portfolio together for, the animation industry, which is kind of, I don't do that as much anymore just because of what I had said, but
Yeah.
just looking, I help students curate the work that they have for their websites too.
Okay. So daily life, what does a typical day look like? I saw something from 2019. First of all, I want to ask, what is your bulletproof coffee? Is it the same as 2019 and what is it?
It's funny because I kind of had it today. It's coffee with coconut oil. And yeah, and so that and I'm like thinking, have I had anything to eat? No, I haven't. I usually will have coffee with the coconut oil in it because the coconut oil is good for, it gives it's fattening, so it feeds your brain because your brain
Yes.
requires fat to function. And the caffeine gets me going, and so I can kind of like sit and work through lunch. And I've had like, I don't know, two pretzels between waking up and now. So, and I'm thinking I probably should eat something.
That's
The
a sign that
bulletproof
you're
coffee is
busy.
the thing. The bulletproof coffee gets me through the morning.
So it's not a specific brand of coffee. It's any coffee with your coconut oil.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you also had written, or not written, interviewed question back then. Read 10 pages of a good book, journal for 10 minutes, daily gratitudes with your goals for the day, the week, the month, the year, and then do random acts of kindness, which I love. That's so sweet. And then take your dog for a walk, run, and then meditation before you start art. Is that still kind of
Yes, I did that today, with the exception of, I don't have my beloved coconut anymore. She went to puppy heaven.
Yeah.
Yes, I think having a morning routine is something that billionaires talk about, successful CEOs, professional artists. The thing that's different for, artists and other people is that artists get their, creative muse at any time. And I know a lot of artists work, until 2, 3 in the morning or whatever. Um, I have been doing this morning routine since, forever. And I think it's important to the exercise is important because, you need to stay healthy, and getting your body moving before you start is important. Meditation and journaling is important too. Journaling is what gets everything out. It gets like your monkey mind, all the crazy stuff that's kind of swirling around. It swirls around in there because it has nowhere to go. And so what I would do is I have a conversation with myself on the page. And one of my favorite books is The Artist's Way. And in that, and I recommend it to everybody who wants to be an artist, who is creative, because writing 3 pages a day, it's clarifying. It helps you to refine what it is you want to do, and even just brain dumping, and it doesn't even have to be ideas of what you want to do. It's just getting the stuff out of your head. And a lot of times there's this deep-seated voice that we don't talk to, we don't address, and that will come out in the pages. And it's the third page. If you can get to the third page, that's where the magic happens, because that's when you're being really honest with yourself. And I've had so many huge breakthroughs in my life because of doing like these daily journaling of 3 pages a day. And then the meditation, I do that. I did that today. Just I sat down right before I work. I sit down and I just kind of like clear my mind, and I ask the universe for, guidance and being focused and, creating something beautiful, or just, it's just my way of kind of reconnecting with the universe and the energy that's out there. So, yeah, that's my morning routine. I've been doing it forever.
All right. So you also said something about that got you through the self-sabotage thoughts. Are those gone now?
They are still there, but they have a much quieter voice. And it's interesting because I've learned a lot in the last few years, and one of the things that was the strongest had the strongest impact in my life was realizing that just because I think a thought doesn't mean it's true.
Mhm.
So thinking that I'm not good enough, or my art sucks, or any of these like negative thoughts that come up, I don't have to believe them just because they're coming up in my brain. I have, I mean, I'm a sensitive artist, so I've worked a lot on those self-sabotaging thoughts and beliefs, but it's taken work. And one of the things that I notice a lot in my students is that tendency to have those things. And I just tell my students, focus on the joy of creating and get into the flow of creating. This is it, getting your pencil or pen or brush on the paper and making something helps you to focus so much on the act of creating that the bad thoughts can kind of just go away a little bit. And when they pipe up, just tell them, shh, I'm busy. I'm making something right now.
So just getting started. Um, I do a lot of YouTube tutorials, and a lot of people, I don't struggle with this, so it's kind of foreign to me, but maybe you could enlighten me and some students. A lot of people are afraid to get started. And I'm like, so what? If you ruin it, start again. Like, I don't mind throwing things away. I bought a little heart punch. So a lot of my artwork gets hearts punched in it. And then I give it to students at school, and they love it. They love saying, "Would you like a heart?" They choose the heart they want. So yeah, anything that's trash, I punch hearts in it. I'm good. So I don't mind getting started. But it seems like a lot of people really have trouble with that. So are you saying that just put the pencil down and start is what
Yes.
can help you?
Yeah. How big is your heart punch? Because I love that idea.
I got it on
Oh,
Amazon.
that's great. No, I love that. That's a beautiful idea. You're repurposing
Yes.
something that you created and you're making it a gift and giving it a new life and a new
Oh,
meaning.
I love that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Um, I think that the more people have an expectation of making something good, the less likely they are to start. Um, I I had a student who was very much like that. She just she had so much self-doubt and so much expectation of making something good, and her skill wasn't matching where she wanted to be. Yet the ironic thing is she couldn't get where she wanted to be because she wasn't making art. She wasn't practicing. So because she wasn't practicing, she just wasn't as good as she wanted to. So it was just this like awful cycle. And the way helped her to solve that was, I got her a sketchbook and I wrote ugly sketchbook. So,
Love it.
right. And so that became the place where she drew intentionally bad stuff. And the process of being an artist is to make things. And you have to just know that you're not always going to make good things. And as long as you give yourself the grace to make bad art,
Mhm, yeah.
you'll eventually get to the good art. But having the expectation that what you make is going to be good every single time is ridiculous, right? And we create that suffering on ourselves because we are looking outside of ourselves all the time. Like I did say in the beginning, like it's really important to see art, but I think it's also important to see art and then stop seeing art and then just make art because there's this natural tendency to compare yourself to other people. And what I see in my classes is that my students, my most talented students, I'm so glad that they're there because they're kind of lifting up the other students and they can see what's possible. But then the students who have less experience, I have to let them know, like, you are not on the same path that they are. You have your own journey and you need to look at your growth. Where were you a week ago? Where were you a year ago? And notice the growth that you have and let that be the thing that propels you forward. Because if you're always looking at what Joe or Jill is doing and you're thinking about what they're doing, then you're not thinking about what you want to do. And it's so important to, I always tell my students, just keep your eyes on your own paper, to just make your own thing.
Yeah, there could be a market for anyone. Sometimes I look like at the Roald Dahl artist illustrations, right? And I'm like, I mean, a kindergartner, you would think, can do that. I mean, not really, but kinda to some
Mhm.
degree. And I see other artists on YouTube, some who are just really, painstakingly wonderful, which I don't watch as much. I like watching the ones who like scratch something out, and at the end, it's not perfect, but it's lovely.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that it's important to just remember why you like to make art and just make art, you know.
Yeah, make art. Just enjoy the process too.
And stop judging it while you're doing it. Just do it to do it. And then when you're done, make another one.
Great advice. What struggles or hurdles have you gone through? I mean, it sounds like everything kind of fell into place for you. What are there any huge struggles or hurdles that you had to go through, or are you one of maybe the lucky ones in this
Yeah, yeah,
regard?
no, no, I mean, yeah, I mean, aside from my own personal struggles, just the creative struggles, I was working in the animation industry for a few years as a character designer, and I wanted to transition into picture books. And I thought, well, this is something I should be able to do. I was working and making picture books with Nickelodeon. So at that point, I was already like illustrating things for Nickelodeon. And so I was illustrating picture books, but I wasn't illustrating my own work. So Clyde the Hippo is actually my first picture book series that I did that's my own style. I worked as a character designer. So as a character designer, your job is to basically create other drawings of the characters that are on model and that they would fit into this world. So I have this as a character designer, you have to have a really strong observational skill to be able to see what looks right and what looks wrong. So you can
Mhm.
always make things look right and look accurate. And it's because of that that I'm able to work for Disney and doing things that involve other characters. But being able to make my own things and my own style was really important and is something that I wanted to do. So it took some time to get someone to see that I could do my own thing.
Mhm.
And during that time, I thought it was going to be really easy to jump into, but it wasn't. And so there was a period of time where I was really struggling and learning how to get that to work. And I had to be really humble and get humble and learn new things. And that was a real struggle for me.
Was it also somewhat of a struggle to do the character part? Because like you said, it takes a special kind of talent or skill to be able to make it look like what they had it look like, which I totally agree. At first glance, I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, wait, she couldn't have done this. She's not old enough to have done these. I thought they were the originals. That's how good you are at what you're doing. And I was like, no, these can't be the originals. And that's not the original Alice in Wonderland. And I was like, oh, okay. So now you've explained like what you do. Was that difficult to do as well to learn to do?
Yeah, I mean, this is why in your basic drawing classes, you do still lifes. This
Mm,
is why you draw vases and flowers and shoes and stools and chairs and like spheres and cones and cubes and learn how to paint and, things that have basic form so that you can then create something on your own from your own imagination and know how to make that look lifelike and look
yeah.
realistic, and so that's a skill that has to be developed, at being able to see positive and negative shapes, being able to discern how far, how close something should be, how big or small it should be, so that it looks like a real, believable human being, or, a character that is already existing in the world, that people are, a beloved character that people know and are so familiar with, to be able to recreate that, reproduce that, and have it look seamless.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Is it still a small community? Obviously, you said you have to pivot, very competitive, the field. Is it still a very, I mean, smaller than ever? Or is AI expanded it into some different sort of,
I mean, the animation community.
yeah.
I am suggesting strongly to artists to create their own work, whether it's comics, illustration, stories, and pursue that path. Like illustrators, storytellers. I'm strongly suggesting people go in that direction because the animation industry is really dwindling right now, and it's hard for people who are out there to find work, people who have been in the industry for a very long time. And a lot of people who are professionals are pivoting. And so for someone who's coming up into it, if your desire is to, be a character designer, or is to draw backgrounds, well, do that in other aspects, do that in illustrative ways, um, do that for, creating concepts of your own stories or things like that. Or, um, just work on developing your own thing, I think, and get really good at it so that people who are wanting your skill can find you.
All right. Um, Two more questions. How do you spend your free time outside of your passion for art? Like, do you have any non-job related hobbies that have nothing to do with art?
Oh my gosh. No. Yoga, dancing,
What kind
and
of thing?
oh, just, putting on some hip hop and dancing, bopping around, things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't watch a whole lot of TV or movies. In fact, anytime my friends get into a conversation with me, like, "Oh, have you seen this?" I say, "No, I don't. I'm a content creator. I'm not a content consumer." So
Oh,
yeah, in fact, I was on an airplane traveling. It was a few hours trip, and I ended up making a painting that's on available for sale on my website. And the woman sitting next to me, she was in the beginning of the flight. She said, "Are you going to watch a movie?" And I said, "No, I'm going to make something." And at the end of the trip, I had made something, and she said, "Oh, I see. Like, no, you make things." And so, yeah, I would rather be making something than watching something. I enjoy jazz and live music, so I like to go and see that and theater, and those things that inspire me to create more is what I love. And so you can see in my work and my paintings that I have this movement series, and so there's this. I love dancing. You can see that in my work. I love music. You can see that energy in my
yeah.
work too. So everything that I have in my life, it kind of comes through in my artwork.
Do you ever get burnout or have too much pressure to create that stresses you out?
Yes. Yes, I do. It's self-imposed though. So, I know some artists talk about like artist block. I don't get artist block. I think I have too many ideas that are on the shelf that are waiting to be birthed. So I have no shortage of things to do. The burnout is from when I am stressing myself out over self-imposed deadlines. So, yeah.
Anything else that we didn't talk about that you want to share with students?
Um, let's see. I don't know. Look me up and follow me online. I'm going to be doing things in the future, and I would love to get connected with other art students. So, yeah.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
the
much. I'm going to stop the recording.